everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be looking at the Sleep Token song DYWTYLM, which of course stands for something. If you've heard the song before, then it's very obvious what it stands for. I'll let it be a surprise as we get into the song for those of you who haven't heard it before. But we are back to big screen here. If you've seen my previous ones, we have not had um, actual like videos of any sort for the previous few songs. So there is a visualizer for this one, so we will be watching it. Before we hop into it, though, just a reminder that I have done all the rest of the Taking Back Eden songs before this one on the album. So feel free to go check those out. I have also done every song on This Place Will Become Your Tomb, which I put into a playlist. So feel free to check that out if you want more Sleep Token analysis from me. If not, that's cool too, if you just want to watch this one. But we're going to go ahead and hop right into it and see what they've got for us in this song.
Do you roll with the waves? Or do you duck into deep blue safety? Is it always the same? Do you wish that you loved me? Do you pull out the chains? Or do you push into constant aching each and every day? Do you wish that you loved me?
So the first thing I want to point out here is we've got this repetitive background synth thing going on, like a synth loop. It threw me for a loop the first time I heard it, because it doesn't sound to me like it was in like standard 4/4 time. For those who don't know what I'm talking about, most songs you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 with your beats. This is a heavily syncopated looping thing that feels a little bit like it does not hit on the 1, 2, 3, 4 with like the emphasis notes. However, once Vessel starts singing, it's clear that this song is in 4, like we would expect. Which let's talk about Vessel in this song. He's employing the same type of emotive singing that we're used to hearing, but there is something interesting in that it sounds like he's got some pretty, I want to say heavy auto-tune. It's not as heavy as it could be, but it sounds like it's definitely noticeable auto-tune. Which once again, he's not doing it because he can't sing. I'm treating that as a stylistic choice, right? Which maybe I'll get into why I think it's there when we get to the lyrics. But just know that that is going to be kind of like a thing running through the song.
Every day, do you wish that you loved me?
Heavily processed vocals as like a melody there.
You give that you will never receive in return. Do you know what it is? Do you wish that you loved me?
There's actually a lot of interesting like rhythmic things going on in this song. So when the drums do come in, the like electric drum sounds come in, it's very clear that we do have kind of just like a straightforward time signature, but in this part there is like a syncopated hit. I don't know exactly what it is, if it's like it's supposed to be like a mallet hit or something that is like giving us the weird offbeat nature of the synth part in the background, and it's going over top of our normal beat, and it gets like this this weird like modulation between the two, and you can kind of see like where it lines up and where it goes off of the beat. And once again, Vessel's kind of singing more straightforward, but the stuff that's going on in the background is not as straightforward as you might expect.
Do you wish that you loved me?
You can hear it in the background there.
Now are you trying to live like everything is a lesson to learn? Can you ever forgive yourself? Do you wish that you loved me? My reflection just won't smile back at me like I know it should, and I would turn into a stranger in an instant if I could. And there is something eating me alive, I don't know what it is. Maybe not that you conceal your feelings, they just don't exist. Do you ever believe?
That's an interesting thing that just came in the background too. But before I talk about that, you've got, once again, this visualizer here that's giving us this strange furry demon looking thing, right? And we've got roses coming down from the ceiling. It looks like they're falling on this figure. If you haven't figured out what the title is supposed to be by this point, the song I would just call "Do You Wish That You Loved Me." He's repeated it so many times at this point, so that's clearly what it stands for. So what I was talking about is this is a very stripped down song. There's not that many elements going on. However, once again, I think there's still enough to talk about how Sleep Token evolves their songs, right? He still adds melody, or not melodies, he adds harmony parts to kind of emphasize the vocals when needed. And in this new section, we're getting a weird, like, synth part over top that's, once again, just kind of like a pattern that goes over and over and over top, and you'll hear it.
Do you ever believe?
You hear it in the background there.
That we can turn into different people? It's getting harder to be myself. Do you wish that you loved me? Could we ever release? Is it better to just not feel? Can we hit delete? Do you wish that you loved me? It's been so long that I'm forgetting what it feels like, but I'd rather not remind myself and leave it all behind. And I try so hard to fix it up, but nothing seems to help. But I cannot hope to give you what I cannot give myself. Do you wish that you
Super interesting. One of the things I like about Vessel is he kind of does these like vocal solos. So he was doing it in the background that entire verse where you could kind of hear the heavily processed vocals, kind of doing these vocal runs, which I always think is super interesting. I don't hear many artists do that. I like that part of their sound for sure.
give myself? Do you wish that you loved me? Small bird, do you wish that you loved me? Do you wish that you loved me? Oh, do you wish that you loved me?
So we have this call and response
Do you wish that you
here.
loved me? Small bird, do you wish that you loved me? Do you wish that you loved me? Oh, do you wish that you loved me?
And then the song just ends. So this song for Sleep Token is a little bit, I don't want to say out of place, but it is a more straightforward kind of just pop sounding song than we've ever gotten, I think. Um, Especially with the rest of the album, which is doing a lot of genre mixing and stuff like that. This song is very straightforward. So I think a lot of the intensity of this song comes from understanding lyrically what it represents. At least for me, because when I first heard the song, I wasn't super enthused about it. But it's come to be a song that I really enjoy what it's doing lyrically, and in the structure of the whole album, it makes a lot more sense, and I get a lot more out of it. So we'll get right into that. So, Do You Wish That You Loved Me has a lot of lyrics for a Sleep Token song. It's mostly what the substance of the song is the lyrics. So if we look at the first verse, we say, do you roll with the waves or do you duck into deep blue safety? Well, if you are a longtime Sleep Token listener, then this probably calls to your mind the imagery that was used on This Place Will Become Your Tomb. This kind of sounds like, hey, are you going to be able to stay above the waves, or are you going to, sink into them? Which this was a metaphor in the last album for kind of giving in to sleep, right? For kind of being taken under by this other person or your memory of this other person. So is it always the same? Do you wish that you loved me? Do you pull at the chains or do you push into constant aching? Each and every day, do you wish that you loved me? So once again, this is kind of presenting a dichotomy, right? That's going to be here the kind of the rest of the song. Are you willing to fight back against the things that are holding you down, or are you going to sit there and just allow this hurt to continue? With the do you wish that you loved me? Is there something you give that you will never receive in return? Do you know what it is? Do you wish that you loved me? This I think is talking about love itself, right? The idea that Vessel keeps pouring himself out, but does not receive kind of any kind of reciprocal love. Especially if we're talking about sleep in general here. This thing that can never really reciprocate love to him if we're going with the interpretation that sleep is this manifestation of his lover that has died, right? That he has created. Like, she can never truly love him like he loves her. It says, are you trying to live like everything is a lesson to learn? Can you ever forgive yourself? Do you wish that you loved me? Like, everything is a lesson to learn. I feel like this kind of gets at Vessel's guilt, right? Does he think that this agony that he's going through is something that is helping him kind of learn his lesson, right? Is it something that he feels he deserves? Or should he just go ahead and forgive himself, right? And I think I'll address the do you wish that you loved me here in a second, but let me get to, I don't know if I'd call this a bridge or just an alternate verse. He says, my reflection just won't smile back at me like I know it should, and I would turn into a stranger in an instant if I could. This kind of sets up, I think, the perspective of what this song is going for. Because you might ask yourself, okay, well, who is Vessel talking to in this song? And I think he's talking to his reflection. He's quite literally talking to himself. He's looking in the mirror and saying, am I able to move on from this? I wish that I could find a way to love myself, right? Because he realizes here that he would rather be someone else. And he says, there's something eating me alive. I don't know what it is. Maybe not that you conceal your feelings. They just don't exist. Which gets to the idea of this emptiness that he's been feeling. If we think about Vessel, the name that he has given himself, a vessel is something necessarily that is meant to be filled up. So if we're taking the view that he's kind of leaving sleep behind here, he has to fill himself up with something else if he's to remain vessel, right? And I think that's why he's feeling empty. He's feeling all of this doubt because he has filled that void in his life with sleep, with his memories of his ex, with this obsession that he's created for himself. And he says, "Do you ever believe that we can turn into different people? It's getting harder to be myself." I think this is going to be almost prophetic for the rest of the album. Because, slight spoiler, I think that the whole point of this is he needs to turn into a different person. So for it to be part for him to be himself is not necessarily a bad thing because being vessel is not super great. Says, can we ever release? Is it better to just not feel? Can we hit delete? So the idea of just getting rid of that part of himself is something that he wants to do. Says, and it's been so long that I'm forgetting what it feels like. I'd rather not remind myself and leave it all behind. Which is something that he has expressed interest in doing in Ascensionism, for sure. The idea of leaving sleep behind, leaving this part of him behind, ascending, right, is how he would treat it as a metaphor, I think. And of course, he says, I've tried so hard to fix it all, but nothing seems to help. And then, I cannot hope to give you what I cannot give myself. Which I think this is very much talking about kind of this self-love concept. It's something that Vessel just cannot accept. He cannot love himself. He can't accept who he is. He keeps filling himself with his obsession with sleep, with guilt, with agony, with that kind of stuff that is basically tearing him apart. And we kind of get this, in retrospect, just really heartbreaking part of the song where he just repeats over and over, "Do you wish that you loved me?" Which I get the visual image of him just staring at a mirror thinking this, and we get this "please smile back." So he really, really, really wants this self-acceptance. He needs it at this point. And this is, I think, embodied in the character for this song, which we saw in the visualizer, but I like to look at the 2D versions because I think it gives us a little bit clearer detail. So the first thing I noticed is this face here looks a lot like the face from Chokehold. Kind of this very, very basic, featureless face. It's barely recognizable as a face, right? But it still kind of looks like one. This to me symbolizes that we are talking about Vessel in this song. Because when we are talking about sleep, it's usually something more grotesque, like I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it on here, but it's usually something different than this faceless, like, faceplate. Which, once again, could be interpreted as maybe this is kind of like a mirror. Clearly, this whole figure here is sort of kind of supposed to look like a heart. However, it is corrupted. It is spiky. It even has arms with a little dagger, which seems like love is something that is either scary to Vessel, it's something that seems unapproachable, something that he cannot attain. Maybe it's his own heart trying to, like, defend itself, right? With this little dagger. And then we get something also interesting. It looks like there's like an engine or something like that kind of embedded into the heart. Which kind of gets back to that artificial imagery. It's almost like he's running on like a program. The idea that he can't feel anymore, right? It's just that he's running on autopilot. His life has become something less than human, artificial, and that's kind of part of his heart at this point. So I think that the internal struggle of the song can be boiled down, right, to just Vessel trying to accept himself as he's talking in the mirror with himself. He needs to move on. he needs to turn into a different person. He can't afford to duck back into, deep blue safety. That would be like returning to this place will become your tomb in terms of tone, which if you've listened to the album, that's not healthy. You don't want Vessel to do that. That would be regression, and it would be horrible to listen to if that was what happened, right? Knowing where he's come from to get here. So that's my analysis of the song. Let me know if you guys have a different interpretation. I'd love to hear it. Or if you have anything to add about maybe some themes I missed. What does this figure here say to you? Because the artwork, I think, is incredible in helping us kind of conceptualize what the song is supposed to be about. But this has been my analysis of Do You Wish That You Loved Me? I will return in the next one. I believe the next song is Rain. And I will see you then.